Our next speaker is a delegate from the Michigan House of Delegates. He's a Democrat serving his first term. He represents the 11th House District in Michigan, which is just west of Detroit. He is also a student at the University of Michigan, Dearborn. Please welcome Jewell Jones.
Good afternoon, everyone. Whoa. Let's try that again. Good afternoon, everyone. So happy to be here. I just want to thank the Center of Democracy and Technology for inviting me out. Thanks for you all being here. I was talking to Brandon before this, trying to debate if I want to read or go off, off the dome, like the young people say. So I guess just remind me once I get done to look at my hand. These are my notes that I wanted to tell you all. But I'm going to read the speech too, so I can get some points across. But when I was first invited to to speak here, I had to think about what I was going to talk about. And so I certainly didn't want anyone to think that I was an expert in technology. Like I was going to explain like how my Snapchats converge to like bits and bytes and it's converted across the globe, or how I got like my team back home sending me jokes to tell you all. I wish I would send some better material, but I don't have it. But one thing I can talk about, because I have seen it firsthand, is how technology can inspire people and move them to action. But before I get started, I just want to share a little bit about myself. Like you said, I was born and raised in Inkster, Michigan. It's right on the outskirts of Detroit. I graduated not graduated, I have 2 courses left, almost graduated, optimistic. From the University of Michigan, Dearborn, with a degree in political science and business. I'm also a member of the Army ROTC program, National Guard, and auxiliary police officer. But it was only when I decided to run for Inkster City Council back in 2015 that I first felt that I really began to find my purpose. And so it was apparent that no one was really connecting with people in my city in a way that I thought was really relevant to us, especially anyone that was my age. And so not long after that, I found out that it wasn't just in Inkster, but it was in like the entire state of Michigan. And so I decided to take that up as my rallying cry. I think too many people were disengaged from the political process because they were feeling ignored. But it wasn't because people didn't care about what was going on around them. It was just because they felt they were left behind after years of being disenfranchised. And so I decided I couldn't stand by and watch this happen. So at 21, I ran for the Michigan legislature. And in 2016, I defied the precedent, became the youngest one in Michigan's history, but I didn't get there by myself. And so what brought me to the state capitol was recognizing that the people of Michigan just wanted someone to listen to them. They wanted someone to talk to them in a way that was relevant to what they thought about. And I think that's the key going forward. Recent studies have shown that 67% of all U.S. adults get a great amount of their news from social media. And so that number has gone up exponentially in the last few years and is slated to rise even higher. It's clear that this is a medium that people are becoming accustomed to, and they basically use it to get to know what's going on in the world around them. What's worrying about this, however, is that even though we have the greatest access to information in all of human history, that social media platforms have become a breeding ground for disinformation campaigns. And so thoroughly researched and vetted articles from respected news outlets are given the same weight as any random person with the internet connection. So, social media treats both types of information as equal when they clearly are not. And so the question becomes, how do we break through the noise? With so much confusion and misinformation being spread around at such a rapid pace, how do we help people differentiate fact from fiction, particularly when they don't have the time to investigate the news for themselves? So the answer to that is building trust, not appealing to authority. And so I hope people listen to me because they trust me to listen to them. This is perhaps important to communities of color than any other group in our society. Disenfranchisement of the rights of people of color dates back to the founding of our nation. And no one should forget that Jim Crow laws existed throughout our country up until fairly recently in our history. Even after civil rights movements, modern-day voter suppression and political gerrymandering remains pervasive. And these tactics continue to I got a retainer on my mouth, y'all. These tactics continue to disproportionately affect communities of color more than any other, and because of that, rebuilding trust in these communities is an enormous task. So no one expects that a single Facebook post alone will convince these communities, particularly young people, that they do matter. But in a concerted effort using platforms like Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, we are offered the means through which we can forge personal relationships with people in our community. This is how we can bring the political process back to the living room or to your iPad and give communities back their voice that they've been lacking for years. And this is our duty and our obligation. And I remember to look at my hand. And so this is what I wanted to say just after listening to everyone. Like social media is like so great and so important these days. I think I mentioned it earlier that you can, have a neighbor that you live right next door to or communicate with people that live thousands of miles away, through a single click, through a single follow, something like that. And so, something I've always been fond of is, realizing that in genuine community there are no sides. So I encourage all speech. But I also think it's important to realize that, one of the most revolutionary things in the world we can do, which helps me in politics, is getting to know our neighbors. And so, when you meet people where they're at, this online, offline communication helps bolster all kinds of things that you would never imagine. So I think it's just important for us moving forward to make sure we're fond of relationship building. Because whether or not you're online or offline, as long as we're building, meaningful relationships throughout the process, this is how the conversation becomes inclusive and diverse, and it's actually conducive to our collective growth. And so no, community, whether you believe in one thing or believe in something else, whether, black, white, Democrat, Republican, all these different things, we can eventually come together, reach some sort of compromise at the end of the day. So just, love your neighbor. So it's in the Bible, so you should trust it. But that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.